Hey guys, Zane here with another One Take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Black Midi album, Hellfire. Hellfire is the latest studio album from English avant-garde progressive rock band Black Midi. Of the current ongoing windmill scene that's going on in England at the moment, there have been a number of interesting acts that have risen up as some of the most interesting artists to come out of England within recent years, particularly Black Country New Road. I really think that they in particular have done some amazing stuff. Ants From Up There was without a doubt one of, if not the best album of the year thus far, but Black Midi have always been a very close second because although I've never personally been in love with them, I do think they have an incredibly unique and distinct sound that has made them understandably appeal to a more music criticism side of things than the vast majority of their peers. Although Black Midi had a legitimately unique and self-defined sound from the start when they debuted in 2019 with Schlagenheim, I personally have never really clicked with the band. I've always found their determination to just make the craziest and wildest sounds that you've heard this side of experimental jazz rock music a bit forced overall. In turn, I feel like Hellfire is more than just a small step up for the group, it's actually quite a big one. Now, in theory, there isn't actually much that Black Midi do on Hellfire that's all that different from their previous effort, Cavalcade, from last year, which was also their sophomore effort as well. Hellfire lives up to its own name nonetheless, as the maddening qualities of the record ultimately give reason for Black Midi to be considered the modern man's answer to Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. Walking the line between horrific and laughably psychotic, this record ultimately has some similarities with its predecessor, primarily that being that the recording band for this album was not Black Midi, but rather Black Midi's mental asylum escapee identical twins. That being said, Hellfire does feel significantly more certain in both what it wants and needs to be than Cavalcade ever did. Hellfire often feels like Black Midi finally being able to fill their own shoes in terms of structure, which was the primary quality that they always seemed to lack throughout their first two albums. I mean, there were great passages on both Schlagenheim and Cavalcade, but they felt slightly disjointed and directionless all at once, making for underwhelming listening experiences, especially when so many people were hyping them up to be these groundbreaking pieces of music that redefined rock as a sound. Moments of semi-serenity that give the listener a break from the insanity that's now practically branded into the Black Midi name itself are significantly more common here than they ever were on anything that the band did previously before their third release. This especially goes for the tracks The Defense as well as Still. Both cuts are very pleasant and actually major highlights of the album overall, as they act as nice and appropriate breaks in between large walls of absurdities that aren't too distanced from the likes of Captain Beefheart. Hellfire is, as one may ascertain from the name itself, a hellish listen to be sure, a pleasant hellish listen for those with an open mind, and a repulsive one for those who are completely uninitiated to what Black Midi and the entire windmill scene is all about. You've also got the variety of styles and progressions that are found throughout multiple passages on the track The Race Is About to Begin, the longest song on the album, but perhaps my personal favorite as well, and similar types of progressions in songs are delivered throughout the vast majority of the album. Tracks don't stick around for too long, and even when it feels like they might be about to kind of overstay their welcome, Black Midi changed things up enough that the listener is kept engaged and the overall soundscape is kept fresh and interesting. Beyond the actual compositions themselves, this also may very well be the most impressive that Black Midi have ever been from a musical performance aspect. While they've always been a band that have been in debt to a variety of different sounds and genres, Hellfire is perhaps Black Midi's influences shining more than they ever have before. From the single Eat Men Eats flamenco guitar style to the chamber-like song structure of tracks like the aforementioned The Defense, everything here feels like it has a huge variety of different musically educated backgrounds, allowing Hellfire to really stand out in the current landscape of music and especially within the context of Black Midi's discography. This is all backed up by guitarist Jordy Greep and bassist Cameron Picton's passionate and yet still practiced style of performance that allows things to feel very meticulous yet raw. Drummer Morgan Simpson especially stands out in terms of actual performance and instrumental delivery, as his performance style just easily bounces between this wild, insane, loose Keith Moon-like figure and this very militant kind of recreation or rendition of the finest music geeks and music theory fans that the world has to offer, resulting in a rhythm section for this album that it's frankly unbeatable. Touring non-official members of the band, primarily keys player Seth Evans, as well as saxophonist Kaidi Akinibi, are also equally as essential as the official members of the band, as they build upon the jazzy structure that plays a major part in the particular brand of progressive music that Black Midi endorse. So overall, Hellfire is something that deeply impresses me, as it feels significantly more filled with direction than Schlagenheim or Cavalcade ever did. Neither of the band's first two albums really did much to impress me beyond a few mildly intriguing passages that were hidden in between walls of honestly kind of pointless, directionless noise almost. I really hate the use the "this is just noise" argument. I really hate that argument, but it kind of felt true for their previous two efforts, to me at least. You would think that the relatively same kind of brand of music that Black Midi performed on their first two records would continue to wear even more thin on their third, but honestly, it doesn't. They've greatly improved on it here and have become significantly more delicate in terms of how to handle it, which results in a more well-performed and honestly passionate record than their first two ever were. I'm going to give Hellfire 4 stars out of 5. My one take on this album is that while the formula for Black Midi's music is relatively the same, at least to some extent, on Hellfire, this feels like their most passionate, well-produced, and well-performed album to date, as they finally find a sense of direction and fill the shoes that they first presented to fans across the globe with Schlagenheim in 2019 and Cavalcade in 2021. So again, 4 stars out of 5, and with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.